This is episode number 452, Doom or Boom, AI in WordPress.
What's it going to be, folks?
I'm Jason Tucker. Go over to my website, jasontucker.blog, for fun stuff.
I'm Say Reed at Say Reed Media on most of the things all over the internet, wherever those things are.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
You can go listen to that podcast wherever
Not
it is
wrong.
you can find great podcasts. And come hang out with us in Discord. Links are in the description below.
Surprisingly more active than I remember from the last time when I checked in. I mean, I hang out there, but sometimes I just forget.
It's the icons.
Yeah.
Icons.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what?
definitely the icons.
I added the icons and really just it pops. Thank you. Also, it's what I realized this week was that the WordPress. I knew this, but it didn't kind of click for me. But I'm saying this because it's really relevant to any of our listeners or and just us in general. The WordPress Slack is specifically intended to not be, and in fact has been quoted as being not a water cooler channel. Water cooler instance. Water cooler being the chit chat that there's often a channel for in Slack instances, but there is not one in WordPress Slack. And I had the amazing revelation this week that our Discord is the WP Watercooler.
What? Are you kidding me? We lived up to our name? Holy crap.
And that means everyone can come over and chit chat, and we're not gonna make you contribute. I mean, you should, but we're not gonna make you whatever. Contribute. You can chit chat and you can share memes and you can post random stuff and GIFs, especially memes and GIFs. Heavy on the memes and GIFs. Anyway, I had that idea. So and especially the Twitter literally imploding into itself. WordPress needs a place to chit chat. And the post status Slack is good sometimes for stuff, but it's still Slack. So anyway, come on over and invite your friends. We've got icons.
Free. It's free too.
It's free, and we have icons. Did I mention the icons? Okay.
It's free. We have icons. That's awesome. That's literally our tagline. It's free, and we have icons.
Oh dear. Icons were not added by AI. I chose those with intention. And I realized, though, another thing I realized this week, I was shown by a friend, speaking of our show topic, AI can give you emojis based off of text prompts.
Huh.
I'm like, wait, what's happening? I think it's the singularity, right? If we feed in text and it comes back with emojis, and then we're like, here's the AI emojis. It kind of blew my mind a little bit. It's part of a bigger project, but just that component. I was like, now I have to go and be like, hey, ChatGPT, can you please interpret this text for me?
That's actually not a bad idea. That's actually not a bad idea.
What's your vibe on this? Give me the general vibe.
Yeah, before you send it could be your drafts. Where you write a thing and you put it in drafts and you send it to it and you're like, hey, can you tell me what you think about this? Which is exactly what I did for this show topic.
That's right.
Because this topic's title, I read the title and I thought, Doom or Boom, boom, it blew up and it's gone. That's what my brain was thinking. Title
suggestion, let's just
say. But more of a boon. But yeah.
Well, it's like a boom time, like the gold rush. That's the thing. But so what did you do with that title? You fed it into the
and I said, did Say come up with a good title or not? And it goes, yeah. And then Say goes, well, shoot, let's do it.
Right. You asked it to come up. You asked it to come up with some titles as well, and man, it really got stuck on some suggestions, and they were awful.
And what's funny is you can tell it. You can say can you just stop mentioning this word?
Yeah.
I know you love this word, but can you just
on another one?
Yeah, and it goes oh, okay, let me go find another buzzword to go use. Yeah.
Yeah, it really it's so good for specific stuff. But honestly, the validation component, I also I put on Mastodon at one point. I recently experimented with all the AIs just to see which one I like. Results Chat GPT, hands down. There's no comparison. The other ones are lame. But it did use Bard, which seems like, more of a soft approach. Sort of like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, I'm going to Google that for you. It's kind of like Ask Jeeves, but like Bard. I feel like it's Ask Bard. Yeah. But like if Jeeves were like more AI, had been more of a chat bot. I feel like that's the personality that Bard has. My favorite thing about Bard is the drafts, but not the point. Point is, I told it I was tired. I said, I'm tired. Because I was. And it was like, oh, I'm so sorry you're feeling tired. Maybe you should take a break and rest. And then it like gave me like all these points. It was like, you might consider taking a nice walk. You might consider calling a friend. Maybe have some water. And then I really hope you're able to work through this and make sure to take care of yourself, because otherwise, you could get burned out.
Here's some funny TikToks to make you happy.
Thanks, Bard. No, Bard is not going to refer me to TikTok, probably.
No.
They're going to be like, have you heard of YouTube Shorts? Yeah, here's some YouTube Shorts. I don't want to, maybe we can talk about, this is a little side tangent, but maybe next week we could talk about when big systems go offline. Like when I panic texted you guys about Google going offline. We'll talk about that next week.
That was anyway. I use DuckDuckGo, so I was like, I don't know what Say is talking about. But
what is this Google thing?
Yeah,
never heard of it.
No, I mean, I still use the Bang search. If you just add like a !G to whatever search on DuckDuckGo, it'll route the thing to Google. So like if I don't like the DuckDuckGo results, I just add that little extra bit or whatever. It's handy, it's helpful.
You're like, no, you suck. Try again. Oh.
Yeah.
So I also asked the AI, what should we talk about on this show based off of the title that you came up with?
Oh no!
And it was
what
just
did it say?
It was just like, oh, you should talk about how AI is going to change the way in which you would use WordPress. And I'm like, wow, thanks. I really appreciate you going through the extra. It wrote all this fluff around it, which it loves to write fluff, and I wish I could get it to like not be as fluffy.
But this specific fluff, that's actually what I wanted to talk about. So
yeah, please.
So there's two main things I've been using ChatGPT for. All the AIs, but ChatGPT, as mentioned, one is helping me with my code, which is awesome, and the other one is filler content for all my websites and all the clients that are not giving me content. So I've just been generating content, then popping it up there, and then they're like, "Oh, we need to edit that." And I'm like, "Don't you? You should totally edit that. That's a great idea." And then they like change it, and they'll give you like the edited text, but like. It is so much easier than being like, I need text to fill this blank spot or this lorem ipsum text, because they literally, like, so many of my clients literally cannot like envision what they want there. They're like, know what the message is, but they can't, if it's not there, they can't envision it. So really it has streamlined my content development because it's not just random filler text, it's custom filler text, right? So it can sound almost right, and it's so good at writing.
But the client's just going to go like, "This is perfect, thank you."
I mean, hey, whatever. I'm telling them it's AI generated. I'm like, I didn't write this. I just fed in some prompts. So do with that what you will. But it's been great. It's fluffy though. That's the thing. So like, it's really good at marketing text, and that's because I think so much fluff and selling stuff is on the internet. Like. That is, a big source of its data. And there's so much marketing ease out there that it's, it's like this racist used car salesman.
Yeah, it's
that's like the problem with AI.
It really is. And there was the Washington Post did a story on this just this week about the data that was used to train a lot of these AIs came from places like the anti-trans Kiwi farms and other hate sites and things like that, where it's like, maybe you guys like, so a little bit of your text.
like literally even just Reddit. Like Reddit is, why wouldn't it
a
be
little
used
bit of
like it's so much conversation and people, but like we've all seen where Reddit goes when you go into the depths.
I mean, there's a little bit of Breitbart peppered in over the top of your content. Yeah, a sousson, if you will.
It's not funny. It's like not funny that exists. It's just funny to think of it as the sousson of it. But it is not actually funny that is the case. So I just want to be clear about what I'm laughing at here. Clearly,
it's a little little reminder that you need to be careful about the stuff that you are copying, pasting from ChatGPT into your site. You need to, even though you have something that, I mean, I have in a few occasions, I tend to be a little more reticent to lean on AI because I'm concerned about some of the garbage that it might spew out, and then we're just putting this up on sites and to train the next version of GPT or whatever, it's going to start consuming. It's
the Mobius strip or whatever, or no, it's not. It's the snake eating its tail.
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros. But this is actually even worse because it's with like reduction, like what's that? Copy reduction. There's a term for that too.
Yeah, it's it's shitty content all the way down. Is what garbage in,
garbage out. That's what it's called. Yeah. There's like a principle or something about like
it's like taking a photocopy and then photocopying the photocopy, which then gets photocopied, and then you fax it and then you photocopy it again.
We're 12 minutes in. I've already dropped Ouroboros and Sousson. I think I'm actually at my cap this week.
Yeah, I think
I'm not wearing my geek shirt. I'm wearing my I'm not an essential threat to WordPress's future. So here, speaking of my t-shirt and geeks,
I was going to say, do we think that AI?
Yeah, that's the question. That's exactly
the threat.
Ask it.
Please, no. Say, please. I insist that you ask it.
I want to ask it because I want you to answer it, and I'll also answer my own question, as we all know. All of us here and our listeners. But is AI an existential threat to WordPress? Dun, dun, dun.
If you are using an AI code generator that is potentially trained on non-GPT, or I'm sorry, non-GPL, there's so many G's now. So many G words. But, non-GPL content that you run the risk of including something.
Wait, hold on. That was, you're saying it's OG GPL and then it's non GPL when it comes through, so it's non OG GPL.
Well, one, you're not crediting the source of where you got the code from, but also you are not. I mean, they're basically they have trained the AIs. They have trained some of these AIs on public repos that may have a license that is not GPL compatible, that may be under a proprietary license that says, hey, this PHP code, this JavaScript code, whatever, shouldn't be used. And they had to essentially the plugin. I agree with that. The plugin team, though, specifically Mika, put her foot down and said, hey, like use of code generators, like you need to go through the due diligence if you're going to have something write a plugin for you that you're going to put in the WordPress repository, which requires it to be under a GPL license, to actually make sure that code is GPL licensed.
So I have two questions based on that. Well, I have one statement and a question. Yes. One, I have been working in WordPress for all of it. Like I don't really build in anything else, right? So I am constantly, well, now less so, but like in my whole career, constantly in forums, on documentation sites, pulling snippets, that from all sort, from gists and gits and whatever, right?
Yeah.
All the G's, and pulling them together into, code that is used for my client sites. And, I'm not publishing that code again. I'm not, it's like the whole, I'm selling the collecting of the code and the, assembling of the code, whatever. But I have not ever checked any of that code for any sort of licensing because, well, I guess because it's WordPress stuff, right? And I'm just like, oh, it's WordPress. It's like just open and free. So the idea that there would be some code that would come through, that it would spit out some code that would be proprietary or non-licensed is like, or unlicensed, I don't know, or not usable the way that I'm using it or whatever, to just be used.
Not appropriately licensed.
Not appropriately licensed. Yeah. Like I wouldn't know how to check that. And two,
right.
Is this literally what is proprietary code then at this point? Because there's so many ways to write a thing. I don't understand. It's copyrights for literature, if you take a section that's a certain length, it's not taking, it's just excerpting. And then if you use it for fair use or something, so you can't take 3 paragraphs, but you can take 2 paragraphs. Is there some correlation to that, or is it just this code is copyrighted and therefore you can't use this tag like that? I don't even understand how you could own code, which is letters and numbers. I don't understand.
See, you are coming at this from an interesting place. As you have grown, and built sites and helped clients out and everything else, all WordPress, outside of being told to learn JavaScript deeply, but up until the past few years, all WordPress is PHP, but not all PHP is WordPress. And that is the big distinction is any PHP code.
I would not know the difference between what is, because that,
and a lot of developers don't too, because you end up with this stuff, which you're probably trying to get to, Cosper, is that the developers that write, that build stuff, they know how to write in PHP. They don't know how to write WordPress flavored PHP to be able to actually build a thing. They'll go and rebuild an entire navigation thing for a menu system or something, when there's a walker and a this and a that, and all these things that are already pre-built to kind of make it all work.
I know a ton of PHP developers who are Laravel PHP developers, and then they get into WordPress because they think, oh, here's where some money is, even though they're probably making tons of money with Laravel. But they're like, oh yeah, I know PHP already. It's like Jurassic Park. This is Unix. I know Unix. It's this is PHP. I know PHP. And then they come over.
Really did know Unix in that one. That's a bad example because it worked.
They come over and then they realize oh, wait a minute. The thing that I'm trying to do here. So I have seen plugins and themes and other bits of code that are built for WordPress that it's kind of the WordPress shim, and then it calls out to Laravel and they build it the Laravel way, and then have something that effectively takes what they're trying to do and shoehorns that into WordPress. It's a little horrifying. It's valid. You can absolutely do it.
I can't see, but how would, let's say, ChatGPT spit that out, right? How would you because if that code exists, maybe it's in the repo, maybe it's it's published somewhere on GitHub, whatever, and it's read that and it's using that as it does try to do best practices. So if you ask for a WordPress plugin, I think it does try to follow the WordPress documentation, which it's obviously all read as well. It's out of date.
I have
read more of the codex than I have. That's what I'm confident in.
I have asked it to just to see its chops and everything else. Historically, whenever it will manage to come back. But when we had WordCamp Orange County for several years, I judged the plugin Palooza and was doing like the code quality and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with what good WordPress code looks like. Some might argue, especially on the plugin review team, that if they've seen my code, that I may not necessarily know what good code looks like. However, they have been very kind to me and allow me to fix things. But besides the point, I've gone and had ChatGPT like, hey, can you make a WordPress plugin that does this thing? And sometimes it does it in a way that I wouldn't have done it, but I'm like, oh yeah, that would work. Like it would, I could see this for this kind of implementer class of people that we have in WordPress who may not want to come to someone like me, or even, I'm sorry, say like you or whatever, and say like, hey, I need a little, I need a solution here. I don't build plugins
for people. I would be the person doing that. Like, so I think there's two big AI conversations that really affect WordPress. One is what we're talking about in terms of generating code, creating little plugins. I think so that's one, and then I'll get to the other one in a second. But in terms of the creating plugins, there's two components of that too. One is creating micro plugins that are for site-specific issues or places to like hold theme customizations or functionality like that. That could be really useful for, especially if we were able to get like a more up-to-date chatbot, which I think there are some of the WP chat is like going to be is trained off of like the newer docs, so it's not as old.
Right.
Like, so it's not ending at 2021. So like I could see like how much easier, like I don't want to ever spin up my own plugins, even just for little things, because then I have to maintain it. And then when the new version comes out, I have to like read that whole thing and be like, does this conflict with any of this? And like, do a little difference checker and be like, am I using any of these functions? And like, so I could really see the value in just popping that in and saying, hey, according to the new docs that are available, does anything in this plugin conflict? We good? Okay, great. So that would be like a really easy check for more custom bespoke plugins. And for me, that would definitely encourage me to do so. Also, I could be like, hey, take this snippet of code and spin it into a plugin called this. And then I could just download it and pop it up instead of even having to write my own, like just to write the plugin files,
I mean, snippet, you could get like, like Copilot to go and like refactor the code based off
exactly.
the latest and greatest. Yeah. But
so there's that aspect, but there's also the plugin aspect of people trying to make commercial plugins where they're, which is what Mika had been talking about in that post they did for the plugins team, which was that they have already seen a bunch of like code that is exact copies of plugins that are already in the repo, because the chat's like, oh, here, you want a plugin that does this? Here's one. You can have this one that I already know about. But then those people were submitting it back to the repo as a new plugin. So there's that weirdness, right? That's a whole people using the code to build plugins to, like, in theory, inundate the repo. And there's been some chat in post status about, I think David Bassett, I believe, is compiling a list somewhere, which we'll find for the show notes, of AI plugins in WordPress. And he was saying, I think we'll have probably 100 by the end of the year. And I was like, 100? How about 100,000 or like, 10,000? Like, there's no way we're just going to have 100. And then like literally like a day or two later, he commented, he's like, just kidding. We already have 100. It's like, I was like, right. Yeah. So like that's happening. Like there's people are using this tool to create all sorts of plugins, whether they're for custom, for bespoke, or for submitting to the repo, which free still, right? But then you have the commercial layer of people who are both there's so many layers to this. This is wild. Both people in the commercial layer, people who are making plugins that use AI. So like the Every Alt from Master WP that's about automatically writes all your alt text. I've seen a bunch of other ones that like do that sort of thing. So that's plugins that use AI. And then there's also the plugins that are like going to be tried to be sold for premium that are made with AI, not even necessarily having to do with AI, introducing a new layer of competition, because maybe you can make an events calendar kind of clone with way less overhead and sell it for way less, right? You could like outprice with like a cheaper product. So there's like, how, like, that is so intense. So when some of those perspectives are like, boom, like, wow, like there's this opportunity to create new plugins and solve new problems and sell them to clients, innovate on stuff. And then also doom in terms of, are we just going to be completely inundated with just, we already have so many plugins, right? And not necessarily even just in the plugin repo, just on the market all over.
And how many pull requests are going to be AI generated stuff?
Oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that. So, and
I just saw Otto pop in the chat, and he's gonna be like, "Oh boy."
Oh well, Otto. If Otto popped in the chat, hi Otto. AI is definitely, well, it's not terrible at coding for the level that I'm at, but it's definitely, it already has plenty of errors for like basic level stuff. Like I have to fix stuff.
You're not going to write the next WooCommerce with AI.
No, but here is something that it will impact the WordPress community on. Another way that it will impact the WordPress community is in things like meeting notes or community summaries or getting work done, pull requests, small fixes, that type of stuff, in terms of even on the marketing team, which I'm, co-rep of this year. I've used it for different things. We're creating this prompts. This is a plug for a campaign that we're going to do a show on, but I'll give you a plug now. We're doing a campaign called WP20 from blogs to blocks. Woohoo! And we're writing prompts for 20 days of prompts for the WordPress community. And a contributor popped into the doc last night and was like, where should I put my AI generated prompts? And I'm like, well, here's fine. He's like, I want to keep them separate. And, they don't necessarily fit the perfect thing, but like the point is that like, so I made a separate section for it. Right. And it's like, here's the AI stuff. And here's the, human generated one. Like, so this is already impacting the community. It's already impacting the way that operates. There's nothing to stop someone from making a pull request, doing some AI stuff with it, testing it, and then putting that in. And not that they would like claim it as their own. That doesn't matter to me, but like, there's no way to know. So it will definitely impact us. That's what this is
going to make. This is going to make Hacktober 2023 just living hell for maintainers.
Just auto GPT the whole thing. That's what's going to happen.
Just like trying to review. Like this is the thing. Like maybe there should now be a button like, was this generated by AI? Just so that you could be like, okay, I'm going to look at the human ones first, or just so that the literal amount, because you could generate so many different solutions, right? Like
But that relies on the people not bullshitting you with that.
Well, right. Yeah.
This isn't AI. Wink.
Yeah, there's no way to tell. Just like with the code and the license, there's literally no way to tell, other than maybe it sounds a little stuffy and fluffy. But like, especially if you're dealing with a community that's very much English as a second language, I don't know. Like if you've learned off of TV and marketing, why wouldn't you also sound like that? You know what I mean? Like there's no way to, and also there can be tools. Another thing that I think Master WP released is a business English tool, which like allows you to like convert any text into like kind of standard business English.
Sure.
Or to like, just make it easier to, in theory, communicate in business. But wow, the flattening of human experience is just like imminent.
I am not terribly. If you couldn't tell, I'm not terribly bullish on AI with the whole garbage in, garbage out, and kind of. I kind of have a little bit of a jaundiced eye, like looking at a lot of this stuff and the things that it generates. but human made, and Tucker, I know we're right near the end of the show, but if you can pull this up real quick. Human made.
The irony of this is like the funniest thing. We laughed about it a lot on our little chat, and we'll laugh about it in Discord with you if you want to come talk about it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Pull it up real fast.
The irony is overwhelming. Are you doing it? I want to. We're all like, now we're waiting to see the thing.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, if you scroll down a little bit to the demo video,
before you scroll down, anyone who's looking at the screen right now and seeing. Well, not right now, but you see the header which says human made and the logo, and then it says generative content WordPress AI.
Right, but the demo that they have, and we'll describe it here. That's the video. It's Artemis, the new trip to the moon, and they are entering in a block a prompt to like, hey, give me a list of all of the attempts to go to the moon, and then they type in, hey, turn that into a table, and then it turns it into a table. Is that a table? Yeah, and then it said add another column that says what the budget is for this. It's okay, perfect. Order that by year in ascending order.
We need to not read a video on the screen.
I'm doing it for the folks listening to the audio, but the amount of, and I'm sure that there are some things that are being done here to kind of lessen the time that it takes to generate all this, but the things that they are able to do with this, of just collect this data for me, this is something that like you would have to engage a person to like go, and this isn't like having a bunch of creative content, like filler content and stuff like that. The demo, and
I can't believe the irony of this coming from human made. It just
right. The demo, we'll have a link for it in the show notes. It is super wild, and it is one of these things where I'm like, oh yeah, having just a little kind of assistant that sits off at the side, and then you're like,
you mean like hey, Clippy? This is like our Clippy millennial Clippy dreams is what AI is.
Yeah,
that's why we're all taking to it so much, because Microsoft has been training us for this moment where it's like, yeah, I always wanted Clippy to talk to me like ChatGPT. I genuinely wish that it would like, instead of Bing, it should have like re-released Clippy, and then the millennials would have just been like, all hail Clippy.
That thing's kind of rad, to be honest.
If you don't know what I'm saying about Clippy, then we'll put a link in the show notes. Microsoft Word in the early days, right?
This human made thing was pretty badass. Like I'm actually impressed. I'm really impressed with what that was able to come up with.
The thing about all AI is you have to know what you want. And that is the biggest blocker to developing a website anyway. The tools are not actually that hard. Asking it to do that is roughly the same thing as, especially right now, Gutenberg, clicking 3 columns and adding pictures, right? Like if you integrate that, it can be a lot faster, because you'd be like, look through Openverse and put in, 3 stock photos for this, whatever. But you still have to ask it for what you want. Right?
But it pulled in the data. That's the interesting part. Is it actually pulled in the data?
Who's checking that data? And talking about copyrighted, like there may be weird rules on software copyright, but what about the rules on like written copyright? Because it doesn't say anything about where that language came from, right? Yeah. It's like, is that just like straight Wikipedia? So it's Commons license. So that's the problem of AI. Not only how is the AI code being made, but what the stuff that it's generating. There's that whole conversation about the artists.
That's a Google. That was a Google search that somebody did.
And now we have switched positions, and my work here is done. Jason, hit the outro.
No.
Oh, look at you. Here's the outro. Someone do the outro. Here we go.
Well, both Say and Jason are on mute, so I'm going to go ahead and encourage you to like and subscribe to WP Watercooler on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, if you're into that sort of thing, and subscribe to us on IL vids if you use the Fediverse. Talk to you.
Poor Say.
Now I